Well, many years ago when I was a child, I had this reoccurring dream. And in the dream that I had, this monster would come out from under my bed. And he would chase me around my bedroom, around and around and around and around. And it scared the dickens out of me. So I told my mom about this dream, and she said, Blaine, next time that monster comes to you in the middle of the night, she says, stand up on your bed and from your powerful place say, I'm not afraid of you, get out of here. So certainly the next night I had the same dream. And I'm sleeping, and then the bed starts to rock, and then out from under the bed comes this horrible monster. And I started to run, and then I jumped up on my bed, and I stood in that power, and I said, go away, I'm not afraid of you, or something like that. And interestingly enough, the monster froze, and I looked down at its feet. And it had pink bunny shoes on. And I started to laugh. And whew, in a second, the monster was gone, never to return again. That's a true story. Many years ago, reflecting on the dream, I realized that most things that I've been afraid of in my life are monsters in bunny shoes. Monsters that were a part of my dream. You know, my dream represents the power of turning and smiling at fear rather than letting it get to us. You know, it's scary. But slowly we realize that most of our fear is conditioning that we accept in these lifetimes. When we truly learn to accept our fears, and we can be open to changing and growing. For many of us, the idea of opening our hearts and minds to painful thoughts seems kind of crazy, doesn't it? We're taught pretty much to not face fear, but to run from it. And somehow that's our natural inclination, is to get away from it instead of staying with it and being with it and looking it in the eye. Fear can be fear can be awful and painful. It's hard to say those words. Can you help me out a little bit here? Oh, all right. Under normal circumstances, fear is not a problem. Fear is often what comes up in us to keep us from going into the lion's den. And fear can cause our bodies to get uptight. You ever feel that? To get filled with energy that sometimes pushes us into saying the wrong thing. And when we're afraid, our minds can get narrow and fixated. You know, it's like everything shuts down when we're afraid so that we can focus on the task at hand. And when we are fearful, our bodies release a lot of cortisol and stress hormones, and we become less rational and less heartful. It's like it just pulls our energy out of our heart and into a narrow place in our mind. Many people are unaware of how much fear runs our lives. But trying to avoid fear only causes anxiety. You know, we're not talking about traumatic fear. The kind of fear we're talking about today is the fear of what's around the corner. What could possibly happen to us? And I've got 8 of the most common things that we human beings fear. We fear change. We fear loneliness. We fear failure. We fear rejection. We fear uncertainty. We fear that something terrible is going to happen. And we have a fear of getting hurt. We also have a fear of being negatively judged by others. Fear is one of the reasons I chose to talk about this topic today, besides the fact that it's Halloween, is that there is a lot of fear in the air on our island, in our country, and in the world. Fear is just huge right now. And there's so many of us that are facing this fear. And as a result, there's polarization is popular. Notice how polarized we are on so many things? When we get afraid, we tend to resort to fundamentalism. Fundamentalism is big right now. Thinking that we're right, my beliefs are right. Aggression is big, violence is big, unkindness is happening everywhere on our planet. And there's just fearful reactions everywhere. And so what we need to do is to find the place to get out of this loop of fearfulness. And these fearful conditions can bring out our goblins. Mm-hmm. Bring out fear and nervousness, and can make us feel like we are on shaky ground. And the truth is, we're always on shaky ground. The goblins that we sense are actually our fears, our insecurities, our doubts, our negative beliefs, all these things that are the roots of our suffering. And it's imperative to befriend these goblins. Seems like a crazy thought, doesn't it? But when we befriend them, we can experience the fullness of who we are instead of running from them. So this talk today is titled, Grin at Your Goblins. All this fear surrounding us may sound like bad news, but in fact, it's good news. Fear is a thing that gets our attention. It's a doorway that we can pass through to experience healing. Seems like the opposite should be true, doesn't it? But isn't that so much about spiritual truth, is that things that seem obvious oftentimes are not necessarily the truth. The things that our ego avoids is actually the door to our healing. So looking at fear, dealing with fear, is actually the doorway that gets us to the place where we embrace and experience the fullness of who we are. So the idea is that we can choose to move towards the things that we're afraid of instead of away from them. So, and what we want to get to today is the idea that we can actually smile at our fears and realize, like the monster that I had in my dreams, it's just a fearful thought that I'm having. And the truth of it, those thoughts are really in bunny shoes. They're really here as opportunities for us to grow and experience the fullness of life. So how do we smile at our fears? And the first thing we can do, I have three things. The first one is to develop an unconditional friendship with ourselves. The second thing we can do is to take advantage of the power of our vagus nerve, and I'll talk about all these things in just a moment. And the third thing that you probably know something about is what? Is to meditate. So the first thing that we can do is to develop an unconditional friendship with ourselves. And we can begin by relaxing into the anxiety that we feel when we're afraid. And we can realize that we have the opportunity to transform the fear that we're feeling. And it's really about, as so much on this spiritual path, it's about recognizing what's going on and loving ourselves enough to be conscious of what's happening and to make the decision that I'm going to face this fear. regardless of what it is, to just stand in it, in the front of it, and love ourselves so much, even though that we're experiencing that fear. And just to be aware of it and say, wow, isn't it interesting what's happening to me right now? I'm afraid. And the truth of it is, fear doesn't really help us conquer the obstacle that's in front of us, because often we want to run away from it. If we can just feel the fear and say, whoa, interesting. I can make friends with this fear. This fear is part of who I am. This fear is here to teach me something. And so I'm opening my awareness, opening my being, and to smile at the fear because we know it has something to teach us. You know, if we don't make friends with the challenges that we have, we become subject to the circumstances and controlled by them. So if we don't befriend our fear controls us. And we don't always make the right decision. Ever notice? So we want to grin at our goblins, knowing that we have nothing to fear. Let's say that together. I grin at my goblins, knowing I have nothing to fear. And the second thing we can do is to take advantage of the power of our vagus nerve. And this is something that Emily and I just discovered recently, this whole idea of the vagus nerve and what it is, in our sort of research to look at how can we become more relaxed? How can we become more peaceful? How can we become more loving? How can we calm down our system in the face of challenges or anxiety or fear? And new scientific research indicates, well, first of all, are you ready for a little science lesson? So I have a picture of, I told Kurt this is a picture of him up here. It's a blue X-ray. Because you're hiding so well, we wanted to know the truth of who you are. So, new scientific research indicates that the vagus nerve may be a secret weapon in fighting fear and stress. The vagus nerve carries an extensive range of signals from the digestive system and the organs to the brain and vice versa. It's the 10th cranial nerve extending from its origin in the brainstem through the neck and the thorax down into the abdomen. You know, the vagus nerve acts to counterbalance the fear or the fight or flight feeling that when we're in a stressful situation that says either I got to punch this person or I got to run like hell, right? And that's often what we feel, and what we're going to talk about today is how we can use the vagus nerve to help to calm ourselves down and not get into that fight or flight attitude. The vagus nerve triggers a relaxation response in our bodies. It's associated with rest and the digesting mode. When our goblins are active, we experience a lot of stress and tension in our bodies. Ever notice? Have you ever, and I'll give you an example of this, have you ever got yourself so wound up or so fearful that you had an upset stomach? And your stomach was reacting to what's going on in you, in your mind? Well, there's a reason for that, because when we get upset, the body says, I'm going to focus all of my tension on dealing with the tiger in the room. That's why when we get upset, this energy isn't going to our abdomen, to our stomach, to digest our food. And sometimes you may have noticed that it just wants to get rid of your food. Yeah. And that's why this is happening, because the energy is not going to the abdomen to digest our food. It's going to the brain, really focusing and really just putting us on a single track. We can't really expand our thinking, as I mentioned early. So dealing with the goblins that we have is important in digesting our food. And also you can see that the vagus nerve goes to many other places in our body and many other organs. And so there is a lot of research now that says that illnesses can be caused by this anxiety and stress. And we've known this for a long time. Scientists are saying that stress is one of the biggest causes of illness in us human beings. And they're saying also that stimulating the vagus nerve can also reduce heart disease and can reduce inflammation in our bodies. So how do we stimulate the vagus nerve? So there are some techniques, and some of these things I know you do to stimulate the vagus nerve. Some of them are deep breathing, laughter, singing, and even smiling stimulates the vagus nerve, because there are nerve endings in our cheeks that react when we smile and cause the vagus nerve and its associated systems to relax. So this is why it's important to grin at our goblins. Let's say it together. I grin at my goblins, knowing I have nothing to fear. So as I mentioned earlier, there are many techniques to stimulate the vagus nerve, including slow breathing, laughter, smiling, singing. So I thought it'd be fun for us to practice today. And so we're going to make this very practical. And we got Alaska Lee over here who's going to play with us and for us a really fun song. It goes back to the 60s, I think. And so I invite you to kind of hang around your seat, but to get up and enjoy this song. And I'm going to put my hat back on. And so here's Alaska Lee singing Monster Mash.
I was working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight. The monster from his slab began to rise. Suddenly, to my surprise, he did the mash. He did the monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on with a flash. From my laboratory in the castle east, the master bedroom where the vampires feast, the ghouls all came from their humble abodes to get a jolt from my electrodes. They did the mash. They did the monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on with the flash. Look here now. The zombies were having fun. The party had just begun. The guests include Wolfman, Dracula, and his son. The scene was rocking, all were digging the sounds. Igor on chains backed by his baying hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive with their vocal group, the Quick Kipper Five. It was the mash. He did the monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. They did the monster mash. come out of his coffin, Jack's voice did ring. Seems like he was troubled by just one thing. He opened the lid and he shook his fist and he said, "Whatever happened to my Transylvania twist? Now it's a mash. It is the monster mash. It's the graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. It is the monster mash." Now everything's cool. Drax a part of the band. The monster mash is the hit of the land. For you, the living, the mash was meant to. When you get to my door, tell them Boris sent you. He did the mash. He did the monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. He did the monster mash. He did the mash.
Woo-wee! Alaska Lee! Let's give him a round of applause. Woo! Oh, I better take this off, otherwise you won't take me seriously. Yeah. Bob says you don't anyway. I know that's true. Oh, sad but true. Well, there's a story about Mashi. She was a Tibetan yogini. It's a woman who practices yoga. And Moshi would frequently meditate near a local pond. In the middle of the pond was an island with a tree on it. And the tree in the pond was inhabited by Naga, a ferocious spirit. When Moshi meditated, and she was deep, her spirit would hang out on the tree on the island. And nobody in the area would even look in the direction of the pond because the Naga was so fierce. The Naga enrolled all of its demon friends to try and chase Mashi away. When all the demons appeared, Mashi turned her body into the nectar of love, and she fed herself to the demons. All the demons tried to attack her, but soon they became her protectors. The story reminds us that when we fully welcome and smile at our goblins, we are no longer caught in a struggle with them. We are no longer fighting what is. Welcoming our fears does not mean resignation or giving up. In fact, what we are giving up is the choice to continue to struggle and to suffer. Fear plus resistance equals suffering. In the story, Mashi turns herself into the nectar of love and feeds herself to the demons. Paradoxically, feeding our demons does not strengthen them. Instead, it allows the energy that has been locked up in them to become accessible. When we smile at our goblins, it will enable the power that has been frozen in them to transform and help us rather than hurt us. In this way, highly charged emotions that have been bottled up by inner conflict are released and become something beneficial. In feeding our goblins, we are not only rendering them harmless, but we are addressing them instead of running away from them. Turning the shadow parts of ourselves so that the energy that's caught in the struggle transforms into positive, protective forces. In the story, the demons become Mashi's protectors. When we embrace and smile at our demons, they become our protectors. Our deepest fears are like dragons guarding our deepest treasures. The third way that we can avoid fear and grin at our goblins is through meditation. Meditation helps the functioning of the vagus nerve. Research from Goldsmiths University of London say that the meditation's psychological benefits might be linked to the proper functioning of the vagus nerve. Researchers theorize that yoga practices of meditation and breathing tone the vagus nerve. Research shows that meditation increases the vagus nerve tone and promotes feelings of goodwill towards others. Another study found that meditation reduces the sympathetic fight or flight activity and increases relaxation. So why don't we, like we danced with our goblins, why don't we meditate with them? So I invite you to close your eyes. And take a deep breath, breathing in and breathing out. And take this moment just to bring the focus of your awareness to the place around your heart. Breathing in and breathing out. And allow yourself to gently let go of anything that's keeping you from being centered in this moment. And think of something that you love about yourself. Your wisdom, your patience, your heart, your intellect, your connection with spirit. And breathe into that. Allowing this feeling to expand. And to allow yourself to just be in the lovely presence of who you are. As a beautiful, perfect, spiritual being. A perfect expression of spirit. And in this place, imagine that you are the essence of sweetness, the essence of love. And this powerful love presence emanates from you. And it forms a place of power around you, a place of love. And that any thought or feeling that enters this field around you is transformed into love. And let's take just a moment or two to rest in this field of love, in the silence. Breathing in and breathing out. Gently bringing your awareness back to this moment. And I invite you to open your eyes whenever you're ready. When we grin at our goblins, we send a message to our bodies, to our mind, a reminder to our spirit that we do not have to be afraid. We can relax. We can de-stress. We can be happy. We can be healthy. And we can be resilient. And let's say together, holding those ideas in our consciousness, let's say together our affirmation today. I grin at my goblins, knowing I have nothing to fear. All right, well, I invite you at this time to prepare your love offerings. And as you hold your gifts, and give without fear, knowing that as you give, you receive. When we give in love, we receive in love. When we give in strength, we receive strength. When we give with peace, we receive with peace. So as we hold our gifts today, let's know and affirm and say together our affirmation of prosperity, which begins, through a grateful giving heart, my mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. And so it is. Thank you, loving Spirit, for these gifts that have come to us in love. We hold them, we bless them, and we release them to move through this ministry, across this island, out into the world. And we behold a world filled with love, with light, and with peace. And so it is. Thank you. Well, today's flowers were given to us by the one and only Al Cantorna. and they're in honor of his mother, Esperanza. It's her birthday, so thank you, Al. And if you'd like to give flowers on Sunday morning, you can certainly do that, and we'll dedicate them to whomever you'd like. And there's a sign-up sheet on the table in the back, and we'd love to have your gift and share it, as well as your blessing on Sunday morning. What day is today? It's Halloween. Yes, 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 it's Halloween, ladies and gentlemen. And we're having a Zoom Halloween party tonight at 7 o'clock on Zoom. The links are in your newsletter to our Zoom site. And we're going to do a number of things. Some magical things are going to happen. I'm going to do a magic trick. There may be a few jokes to share. And, oh yes, we're going to play Halloween categories. And for those of you who are here in the sanctuary, there are category sheets. Oh, I think they might still be in the copier, but I'll get those out here, and you can take that home with you, and there'll be no working on them ahead of time. Do you understand? Because we want to work on them at the same time, because there's a time limit element to the game. So those will be out here also, and that's going to be a lot of fun. It's always fun. Halloween's one of my favorite celebrations. I get to dress up as who I really am.
Who's that?
Kurt says, "Who's that?" Yeah. Isn't that fun? I think we do kind of do that on Halloween, don't we? Kind of dress up as that part of ourselves that we don't always get to share with others. So that'll be fun. Oh, by the way, for the Halloween party tonight, you won't need to wear a mask, but you can. And no social distancing is necessary because you will be socially distanced. So that's fun. 7 o'clock tonight. The links are in the newsletter. All right. Coming up on November, what did I say it was? 13th, 18th. Thursday, November 18th, we're beginning a new book study. Our Aloha groups, which is our group of people who meet here on Maui, and you don't have to be on Maui to join our book study. Some haven't. But our Aloha groups are all about creating community and consciousness. And this time around, we are studying a book titled The Art of Noticing. Very fun book. And it's not a book that you necessarily read through. It's a book of activities that allow you to step out of how you might normally see something and look at it differently. And we'll do that as a group, and then we'll come back as a group and talk about what we observed and how that was different than what we might normally observe. So that'll be a lot of fun. So I have a practice exercise for you. So close your eyes for a second. And imagine what your kitchen looks like right now. And how much do you remember of what it looks like? Okay, Loa says nothing. I don't know if she doesn't want to remember what her kitchen looks like. She just moved, so we can only imagine what her kitchen looks like. I don't think you have a stove yet, right? No, they're using the barbecue. So anyway, what does your kitchen look like? Is there stuff in the sink? Is there stuff on the table? Is there stuff on the floor? What does your kitchen look like? And just picture that in your mind. Try and think of as much detail as you can. What do you notice? And remember a couple things that you noticed, that you see in your mind's eye. And then when you go home today, look and see how accurate you were. Maybe if you're really lucky, somebody washed your dishes for you, but so just go back home and notice what is different. What did you remember? All right. And then along the same line, next week, my talk is titled The Art of Noticing. And the author, Bob Walker, wrote, "To stay eager, connect, find interest in every day, and notice what everybody else overlooks. These are vital skills and noble goals. And they speak to the difference between looking and seeing, between hearing and listening, between accepting what the world presents and noticing what matters to you." So I think it's going to be fun to do this talk. It's a lot about noticing how we can be present in the moment, which to me, this book is about mindfulness and how can we sharpen our tool of mindfulness so that we are more present in every moment and experience the fullness of what's here right now. So that'll be next Sunday, November 7th, The Art of Noticing. And also, I'm still trying to plan a date for a new member class. I haven't done that yet. I've got a few people interested, so I'll be letting you know more about that. And you can find more of our Sunday talks on our YouTube page, Unity Church of Maui YouTube. So, I think, are you scared? No. You're not scared. Nobody here is scared. Not even my silly clown outfit scares you? A little. So why don't we bring this wonderful time to a close? Thank you all who helped out with our service today. I appreciate all your help. Thank you, Alaska Lee, for holding a note. Bob and Nate and Emily and Kailani and our prayer chaplains and Joy, everyone who made this possible. We're certainly a community in action. Kelly, you too, yes. So why don't we stand before I get too much sillier, and let's take a moment and focus ourselves and give thanks. And let's affirm and pray together our prayer for protection, which begins, "The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is." God bless you, friend. Mahalo and aloha.
Where I live, they're all raised.